A solar eclipse, a total solar eclipse, happens when the Earth, Moon and Sun are exactly in line, and the Moon is exactly between the Earth and the Sun. And in those circumstances, the Moon casts a shadow, a tiny shadow actually, I say tiny, a few tens of kilometres perhaps across, maybe a few hundred, on the surface of the Earth, and the people who stand in that shadow as it moves over them are lucky enough to see a total solar eclipse when the Sun is completely blocked out by the Moon. Now, the solar eclipse that's coming up is on April the 8th, and it's largely visible in North America at its best, but also in other parts of the world as a partial eclipse, where the Sun isn't completely blocked out by the Moon because they're not quite in line if you're away from the centre track. Total solar eclipses are quite rare for any one spot on the surface of the Earth, and you might have to wait an average of 400 years between them. However, somewhere on Earth, they're typically around every 18 months or so, and that partly explains why people are so happy to travel to them. Now, this total solar eclipse is great if you're in Canada, the US or Mexico, because you'd have the opportunity to travel to the centre line where you will see totality and the beauty of the Sun completely blocked out by the Moon. However, even if you're in the UK or Ireland, there is an outside chance that you can see a partial solar eclipse where a little bit of the Sun is covered, a small percentage is blocked out by the Moon. Now that will be visible if you've got clear skies. There's a lot of ifs coming in here, but it's really important to be aware of them. If you've got clear skies, it'll be visible just before sunset. The prospects for it are that if you're in the western half of the mainland UK, so places like Manchester, Liverpool, Glasgow and those cities and West Wales and so on, you have a good chance. Better still is if you're in the Republic of Ireland, because you're a bit further west, the sun will be a bit higher up, still quite low on the horizon, but a bit higher up during the eclipse over in the west. And so somewhere, say, in Northern Ireland too, in Belfast is good, or possibly County Donegal. Again, if you were looking out over the sea and the sky was clear, I think you'd get a fantastic view. If you're lucky enough to be on the centre line, which is where you get the total eclipse, in Mexico, the US and Canada, for you it'll be happening roughly between about 11 in the morning in Mexico through to mid-afternoon in Canada. The eclipse shadow actually moves really quickly across the Earth's surface. Now, within that, the bit that everybody's excited about is the total eclipse when the Sun is completely blocked by the Moon. And that's less than 2 minutes. So this is something people are very excited to see because it's so rare and so fleeting. If you get to see it, I can only say really concentrate on the view because it's absolutely spectacular. Now, if you're in the UK, sadly, we're not going to see a total eclipse, but the partial eclipse that we see is best viewed probably between a bit before 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock, depending on exactly what time, where you are in the UK or Ireland. And, essentially, if you're over in the northwest of Ireland, I think because we're on summertime now, it'll be slightly later on and you get a bit more time to see it. Now, with a solar eclipse, the one thing we always have to stress is that looking at the Sun is dangerous. It can damage your eyes, so please don't do it without the right protection. Now, during the partial phase of eclipse, that's incredibly important because the Sun remains extremely bright. Even when you've got a thin crescent left, it's still easily enough to damage your eyes. So instead, what you need to do is either, say, go to a public event where perhaps you might have amateur astronomers projecting an image of the Sun you can look at, or if you can get hold of certified, proper, good standard eclipse shades, those are usually available on these sites too. You can buy them online. And they block out most of the harmful light from the Sun, so your eye is much safer as a result. The thing I should stress too is that during the total phase, and only during the total phase, when the Sun is completely blocked out by the Moon, you've got the most beautiful spectacle imaginable. You've got the silhouette of the Moon in the middle, which is completely black, and then around it, this wonderful corona, the outer atmosphere of the Sun. And during a total eclipse is the only time that most of us are going to get to see that. So for that time only, that short 2-minute or less spell, that's when you can take off your eclipse glasses and you can enjoy the view. But as soon as totality ends, you must put them back on again to watch the rest of it. If you're in the UK of Ireland, there's no total eclipse, so the only safe way to do it is to be using those special filters throughout. One thing you can also do, of course, if you're clouded out or if you just want to watch some of it from the comfort of your own home, is look out for one of the many online live streams of the eclipse. And for example, NASA is running them. I don't doubt that other observatories around the world will be doing the same as well. Now, if you miss this one, and let's face it, most of us will, it turns out that Europe in 2026 is going to enjoy a total solar eclipse as well. And this time the track will be running, of totality, will be running across Spain and Portugal. And as it's in August, that seems like a perfect opportunity to see one. I imagine there'll be very popular destinations that year. If you're in the UK and you want to see a total solar eclipse, you're going to have to wait until 2081 for one in the Channel Islands, and until 2090 for one that hits the UK mainland. So I'm not really seriously expecting to be around for that, but perhaps some of the younger people watching this might be.